And now a message from your sponsor, me. There's no sponsor, it's just this guy. For all you beautiful humans, I want to let you know, if you're hearing these words, this is also on YouTube, so you can check us out there and see my pretty face. Huh? That's pretty exciting. Also, be on our newsletter because there's Woke live events and trainings coming, all about the spiritual path, loving and accepting yourself more. They're going to be freaking life-changing, and you'll find out about those if you're on the newsletter first. And of course, they will also be listed on www.Woke.As. I love you mucho, and I hope to see you in the flesh very soon. Ciao.
Are you ready to get woke? Welcome to the Woke.As podcast with your host, Alex Lazarev.
And boom, shakalaka. It's another Woke.As podcast. What's up, everybody? How's it going? You excited?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
I know what you're all thinking. This is the youngest, cutest man you've ever had on the podcast. What's going on? And he's touching my hand. This is getting more homoerotic. Last time we had a gay man on. That was a great time. Now you got this young, good-looking fellow. What's going on, Sasha? Is there something else you need to share? Not really. Not really. It's just on a lucky streak. So this guy here, he's a special man. Everyone who comes on is special, as you've noticed, and this guy's no exception. And I think we should start with where we met and how that happened, because that was actually kind of a lot of miracles happened. This is years ago. I think this was 2014.
Yeah, that's right.
And remember, with this mic, anything you say, nobody will hear it unless you're holding the mic. So if I want to, I'll just do this. I think it was 2014 that we met.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, there we go. That works. And a lot of craziness happened afterwards, and it's really quite a miraculous story. At least for me. I don't know for you, but I guess we'll find out. So I guess let's start there. Oh yeah, it's weird. We're in Vancouver. It's freaking, July, and it's kind of cold. It's wrong. It seems wrong somehow, but it's okay. So basically, I was in Toronto, and I was in a mall. I was just walking around a mall, and this guy comes up to me and basically says,
I said, "Hey, Sasha Day Game. I'm a huge fan of your YouTube channel." It's like, and I went up to introduce myself to you. We were in the food court at the time. And I remember how I felt when I first saw you. I was a little nervous, but I was so used to seeing you through YouTube. You're like a dude on a screen, right? And then I saw you in person for the first time. I remember what I was wearing. I was wearing a leather jacket. You were wearing a leather jacket. And I was pretty chill. I'm like, hey, I'm really excited. I came here to see your talk, blah, blah, blah. And I remember you were thinking about something else, right? And I'm not sure what were you thinking at the time when you first met me? Do you remember?
I know my mind was on something because I met you, and I really liked you, and I was like, I was elsewhere.
Right.
Definitely. I was in some other mental space for sure. I don't know what exactly, but yeah, I had a talk coming. I could have been thinking about what,
Right.
Gee, what would a person in Toronto in a mall who's just in normal state of consciousness like everyone else be thinking about? Well, fucking anything. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I remember we sat down in the food court and we just started chatting. You started chatting about yourself. I started chatting about me, how I found your YouTube channel. I was 19 at the time. I'm 25 now. And of course, I want to learn to pick up girls. I wanted to date. I want to get laid. I wanted to fall in love, be happy, etc. Right? And I think I just started sharing why I liked you in particular, because the reason why I gravitated towards Sasha a lot was you made doing the wrong things graceful. Because most men, when it comes to meeting women, they're so allergic to doing the wrong thing, saying the wrong thing, or getting rejected. But you made it a graceful art form, and you made it enjoyable. And when I saw that, that was the first time I ever saw a guy do that in public. And I'm like, okay, I could relax. I felt like, I can do the wrong thing now. I was given permission. So after I saw that, actually it exploded for me, because compared to most guys, I never did a workshop. I didn't do coaching. Just that thing in my brain that says be afraid, I just didn't have it. So me and a close friend of mine who's actually coming in the next few days, we did this in the Philippines, and I did it by myself in Canada around the ages of 16 to turning 20. All I did was talk to girls. All I did. And so you were a huge part in my development. And I think I remember mentioning that to you in the food court. And then you mentioned sharing about yourself. I think we got into something about book reading. And so this is where our friendship started to blossom. I think you should mention, because that was very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I remember we were talking about books, what books we'd read and how they changed our lives and all this kind of stuff. And I think you mentioned to me, you asked me if I read the Four Agreements, didn't you, in that conversation? Yeah, you asked me if I read it, and I was like, no, I haven't read it. I think I'd heard of it, but I never read it before. And basically, I remember just feeling like I really liked you a lot, like we just had this connection. I really liked you a lot, because initially, my mind was elsewhere. Once we started talking, I really was like, oh, this guy's really cool, and I really enjoyed our conversation. I really felt a connection there. And then I thought it was me, but it was actually Spirit speaking to me. But I was like, oh yeah, you should come to my talk. And I think you said you couldn't afford it or something. I said, oh, don't worry about it. Just come. And you're like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Just come to the talk. It's no problem. You can be my guest. And you were happy about that, right? And then next thing I know, you showed up to the talk. Is there anything else you remember there?
There's one thing that was very important was before I came to the talk, because I knew I couldn't afford it, what I did was I actually bought you the book, The Four Agreements, and I signed it on the behind the front cover. And I signed it, and I went up, and I'm like, I'm not going to do the talk, but I still want to give this to Sasha because I love you. You made a huge impact on me, and I want to give a parting gift. I remember giving you that gift, and there was a twinkle in your eye. You're like, come, stay at the talk. Fuck it, just stay. I remember that very specifically. Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because there was two parts to the talk. There was like a part that was almost free or super cheap, but then for a longer part, it was more expensive. Right. Yeah. And then I was like, just stay, don't worry about it. Yes, that's right. So we did the talk, and that was good, and everything, and blah blah blah. And so the part of this, and thanks by the way for the way you explained it, and that I gave you, how I helped you in your journey. And no one's ever actually put it that way, that you could do something. How's the way you described it? That I could. No one's ever done something that's wrong behavior, but made it seem so graceful. Yeah. I never thought of it as wrong, but it is. I guess it is kind of, by mainstream, considered wrong, right? Like just come up to strangers.
Well, no, I mean just making mistakes, right? Because the huge issue with the dating industry at the time, they were making money based on, here's the correct technique so she never rejects you, that she'll always like you. And it does create a form of neurosis, and it did in me, and it did in most guys in the dating industry, or guys who wanted to learn, who are just insecure, who are young and insecure. And being a young and insecure guy, seeing somebody do it the wrong way, make mistakes, and just see it's okay. It's great. It's a good laugh. It's enjoyable. I'm like, because it really resonated with my personality. I embarrass myself all the time. It's just my nature. That's what I'm good at. I turn embarrassing myself into a skill. And that's where I took on when I eventually got into acting. But that was such a huge part in freeing myself up just to express myself. And that actually flowered out into many things, into my public speaking, when I dabbled in stand-up comedy, when I dabbled in performance art, and also once at the age of 21, I lost interest in actually meeting women in terms of like trying to get laid, pick up. I lost complete interest. That lesson that I learned from you, I still carry that with me. It just blossomed into something else that I honestly didn't expect within the past 5 years of my life. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that always makes me so happy when I just run into people and they're like, happened to just did a talk in Vancouver, a couple weeks ago here. And so many guys showed up and they're like, Sasha, you totally changed my life. And they're just hugging me and shit and loving. I'm just like, all right, cool, man. It's just, you kind of get used to it, but you never quite get used to it, because it's like, it's a weird concept, right? There's all these people that love you and you never met them. And you've had the best thing ever, but it is kind of surreal. If you really think about it. Anyway, so we did the talk, and so here's what happened afterwards. It was really trippy, and I don't know if I honestly, I might have shared the story publicly. I really don't remember now, but here's what happened. I was staying. I got a old friend of mine that I often stay with in Toronto called Matt. Shout out to Matt if you're watching this podcast. I don't think he does, but maybe. And he's a great guy. We've been friends for a really long time. He's a real sweetheart, very talented guy, really amazing piano teacher. He actually teaches, he's also a teacher. And he's a really amazing guy. And I always crash with him, and I was staying with him in this period, and I was reading the book, The Four Agreements that you gave me, and yeah, this one time I just got in the elevator in this building, and I just got in the elevator, and we were both going to go downstairs, and then some woman was like, "Oh, wait for me for a second," and I'm like, "Oh, okay," or I don't think she even said that. I think I remember just seeing somebody coming to the elevator, and I said, "Oh, well, we'll just wait a second." So I held the door open, and then she sort of started running a bit, and then she comes in, and yeah, and then she's just starts reading this book in the elevator, and then I kind of like look over, and I'm like, "Is that the Four Agreements?" And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, that's funny. I'm reading the same book right now." And it immediately struck me as a really weird coincidence that some woman who lives in the building that we're in is reading the same book as me at the same time when it was just given to me by somebody. And I just knew the synchronicity was happening. And I just looked at her and I said, "Let me guess. Somebody gave you that book recently as a gift." And she goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Yeah, interesting. Where are you on? Just starting chapter 4?" She was like, "Yeah, yeah." I said, "That's literally the part I'm on now too." And I said, yeah, it was just so really weird. And then we started talking. I said, "Don't you think that's a bit of a coincidence?" She says, "Yeah." Anyway, so we ended up talking that night. We ended up literally sitting in the hallway of the building for something like 3 hours, just talking about everything, like crazy stuff and how the world works, and just fucking crazy theories and how, yeah, blah blah blah, just all night long, just stayed up talking about crazy ass shit. But real stuff people don't usually talk about. You know what I mean? Not like the weather or like sports, but like deeper stuff. And this woman, she ended up being kind of my first real life, like human embodied spiritual teacher. She's pretty advanced, and she just changed my life. I mean, really, she set me off. I was already on the path, but boy, did she really set me off on the path to self-realization. Very huge for me meeting her. And Spirit used you like a bitch to get me that book so that I could meet her. It was all part of it. Seriously, it was super, super freaky. Like, it's because she was reading that book, I started talking to her, and that we connected. And the synchronicity of that book, it made it so obvious that I was supposed to talk to this person that we were both like, okay, clearly this is weird. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we need to talk. And it changed my life, and I could do whole episodes. And this woman, like, I've wanted to get her on the podcast lots of times because she's so amazing, but she wants to stay anonymous. And so, yeah, so she is. But I could tell so many stories about her and what she's been through and what she's taught me, and like, oh my God, like, she's an unbelievable person. And I literally met her, and that changed the course of my life because you gave me that book. Like, everything happened perfectly. Like, it's freaky. And that's the thing. And more and more, and I just want everyone to just really feel into this because it's so true for me, and I know it's so true for so many of my friends and students and other people, seekers on the spiritual path. Like, Spirit is always working through us and through everyone to get us to do the little things that will eventually line up in some epic synchronicity to get us to where we need to be in life. So whenever we get like an intuition or a feeling, right, it's always there. Every single person that speaks to us, you remember that it is Spirit speaking to us also. So it might be someone from an ego just being like, "Hey, I'm hungry. Do you want to get some food?" But when someone goes, "Hey, have you there's this book you'd really like," or, "Hey, have you ever been to this park? Yeah, you'd really like it a lot." Sometimes it is not the person, is actually Spirit speaking through the person to you. So actually, the exercise is to remember, and it's the ultimate truth anyway, everyone you're speaking to is God. And sometimes it's the ego construct speaking to you, and sometimes it's God speaking to you. And you need to be conscious and present and aware to know which is which. Because the times that I listen and I go, okay, there's something here, that, like, I could have not listened. When you started speaking to them, I could have been like, oh, just some stupid fan or whatever. But my intuition was like, no, there's something different. Speak to this guy. There was some intuition that said, invite this guy to your talk. I don't tell everyone. Like, it was a paid talk. It's my job. I don't tell everybody to come for free. But with you, I knew, invite this guy to your talk. It's okay that he comes. I was like, okay, yeah. I knew it. The Spirit was telling me, like, invite this guy to your talk. Just like that I knew something was happening when I was in the elevator and she was reading the book I was reading that you just gave me. That I knew that meant something because I'm present. I just realized that how it works. This is not, nothing is happening randomly, right? And it's not. And so yeah, it's a real shift in your reality when you realize everything is a consciousness, everyone is God, and messages are coming to you all the time, all around you, and everything, things that you read, things that you hear, your intuition, people talking to you, it's all one. It's all one consciousness hologram, and it's working constantly for your evolution, and it's giving you opportunities to evolve and to grow and to get into alignment with who you are. And what do? We bury our fucking heads. No, I'm just going to eat shitty food. I'm just going to drink and null the pain, and I'm just going to watch sports on television or whatever. I'm not interested. And people are literally just, the universe is like, hey, wake the fuck up. And people are just putting a paper bag over their head going, no, I'm not listening to this. Nope, there's no God. There's no intelligence. Nothing is going on. It's just save up money and work and just get your fucking retirement fund and everything's going to, and just follow the fucking system. It's like, dude, man, like, hello. That's not what's happening here. Anyway, so that was a nice little Sasha rant. Where are we in our story? What's happening? I don't know what's happening.
And so, after Toronto, we parted ways, and I remember you introducing the idea. It's like, oh, you'd make a good coach. You mentioned I had that potential, and I thought, oh wow, cool. I never would have thought it. And then maybe I think 2 years later or a year and a half later, I'm in Hong Kong. And we tried to reconnect again, and we ran into each other again in Macau, right? And you were just running me through the basic gist of running a workshop or boot camp. And that didn't work out mostly because Hong Kong, it's mostly Cantonese speaking. I didn't speak Cantonese. Also, I was young as fuck. Like, let's be honest. I was like, you saw potential, but there's a reason it's called potential. Like, it hasn't fully blossomed yet. I still needed more time to mature. But it was a combination of the two things, like being able to have a business there in Hong Kong, any kind of business, and not speak Cantonese is just no. It didn't work out. And also, I was going on a different path. I needed to mature a lot more as a person. And also, I was becoming I was becoming so disillusioned by the whole dating industry. I became sick of it. Like, I'd throw up at the thought of it. This is an amazing story. This is probably like my last attempt at trying to pick up a woman. I went into this bar. It was in daytime along Wan Chai. And I see this sort of cute Indonesian woman. And I go and talk to her. And as I'm talking to her, there's this old white guy behind my back. And he's sort of making funny faces. He's trying to bully me. Essentially, that's what he's doing. The girl's ignoring him. I'm ignoring him. And then what happens is that he starts to open his mouth. I don't remember what he says, but definitely he's trying to ruffle my feathers, right? I try to ignore him. I try to dismiss him. And then this other drunk guy comes in, right? And I'm not sure what they're trying to do, but they're obviously having a good time to themselves. They're just trying to fuck around with me, right? And I feel really uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable. And I feel really insecure as well. And the Indonesian girl's just putting up with it. And I do as I usually do. I know how to win people over. That's my survival mechanism. I'm really good. I'm a charmer. And so I was able to charm the drunk guy, able to chat with him, bond with him, and then the Indonesian girl left. But we exchanged numbers at that point already. And I remember leaving that interaction. I just felt sick. I'm like, this is horrible. And I remember going home, and she asks me, do you still want to meet up tonight? Like have sex? And I thought, after all that, I did all the wrong things, and you're still wanting to have sex with me? No, I don't. And something in me shifted in terms of how I want to feel about who I am, right? Because I technically got what I wanted. A pretty girl I talked to wanted to have sex with me. But that whole human interaction, in terms of my relationship to humanity, felt like shit. I'm like, this is not how I want to relate to the human race. This is garbage. Even if I get what I want. And I remember I mentioned this to Sasha. I mentioned this to you already. Uh, I was on a train and I was listening to a talk by Jiddu Krishnamurti, specifically on desire. It was like an hour-long plus on desire only. The whole psychology, the whole how it affects our lives, just having desire. And I'm sitting on the transit in Hong Kong, and he gets to the point in the talk where he talks about when you desire something. Let's say I desire this person, and this person is beautiful. I see no beauty around that person. Because I desire this person, I don't see anything else. I'm blind to the beauty that comes in anything else because I want this person. Desire fixes you at a point and thinks, this is the only point I get attention. This is only where beauty is. This is only where things have value. And you miss out everything else. And he's saying this as I'm looking into this ugly, hideous old woman. And I'm thinking, because I don't desire her, I miss out all the beauty that she has to offer. And then I start to see the beauty in the window behind her, in the view behind her, in the baby sitting next to her, in her clothes, in the little speckles in her face, in the disgusting scent that she has. I see beauty in all of that. I don't desire it, but the desire was misleading me, thinking that there's no beauty in anything else. And I remember leaving the train, and I'm just in this weird state where at the top of my head, I feel like energy's like a volcano's erupting out of it, or a volcano's erupting into it. I couldn't tell. Something was coming in or coming out the top of my head. And I wrote something. And deleted it because I realized like the words cannot describe what I'm experiencing. But whatever it is, it's all within my biology. It's all within my biological system at an unconscious level, so I don't need some verbal answer. But I remember going home, trying to read a book, looking at the time. Something as dumb as looking at the time. I couldn't tell the time. I couldn't read anymore. All my ability to comprehend words, language, numbers was just gone. I remember putting the book against my lips going... I couldn't do anything else. And then I fainted. So I rushed to my apartment because I felt like I was going to faint. And because my mental structure of reality totally vanished. It was totally different, right? Because I think my entire life, of course, I just assumed if I want it, it means something, and that's my point of focus, and that's the point of value. But that was the first time where it really disintegrated right before my eyes, and I allowed something new to be integrated. And then I woke up, and things were back to normal. I could tell time, I could read books, but my relationship to other human beings, my need to think I need to desire something, or I need to understand you based on what I want, or the things that I want have any value, right? There are things of value way beyond that in myself and around me, and I just don't see it, more particularly because I may want something. And so that was a whole nother journey, and that's how I got into acting, because I wanted to more interact with people. I was very sick and tired of just trying to talk to women all the time. I wanted to talk to all kinds of people. I wanted to understand how other people lived. And also that's what I latched onto at the time because I was still going through depression. And I was like, okay, people told me I was a natural actor growing up. I'll do that. And that was probably the last, after you left, and now that we've reconnected, those past 3 years, that's what I've been doing since we haven't seen each other. Mostly very, very intense acting training, very intense workshops on self-expression, a very intricate healing process, and having a healing environment to work through my depression. Because I was going through a tidal wave of depression. It was like a tsunami, and it was going in and out, in and out. I'd have good days, bad days. But the thing is, depression's like an island, right? It may be good for a while, but the tide will come back in and wash everything away. And I was still going through that for between the ages of 16 to 22. 22 is when it was done. Not depressed anymore. Yeah. And so that's where we reconnect right now.
So some juicy stuff there. Juicy stuff. Well, one question that comes to my mind is, if you could sum it up, why were you in a depression? Like, what the hell? Because I just see like this amazing human being, and I know we're all confused and shit when we're younger. Like nobody knows what the fuck's going on. But you're such a positive light. You're such a star that it's difficult for me to comprehend how you could ever be depressed. So I'd be curious to hear a little bit about that, and then I'll ask my big question I have. So you take that.
Okay. So I haven't done this already, but I will. I will start a YouTube channel and I'll have a manifesto on depression, my experience, and what I have observed with other people. Because quite frankly, I think the entire pharmaceutical industry, mental health industry, they have this very mechanistic understanding of depression where you can just get rid of it with a pill or someone can talk you out of it. But really, those are just all forms of anesthetization. In other words, just eliminating emotion so you just don't feel it anymore. That's not getting rid of depression. That's not ending it. That's just you. It's there. You just don't feel it anymore. But it's interesting because an important thing to know about me is that I wasn't abused as a kid. I had a pretty good life. My childhood was pretty spot on.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but that's an important. So people who are depressed are not necessarily abused. However, my parents were to some degree, right? Both my mom and my dad had some form of trauma. And so as parents, they also wanted to secure me, protect me. And to some degree, they did it too much. And I didn't know how to set boundaries. I love my parents. And a natural way to adapt is to let them do onto me and repress my authentic self. And so the basis of depression, it's the battle between attachment and my authentic self, where in order to preserve my attachment to my parents, my friends, etc., I'll hold back my authentic self and not put up any boundaries in order to say, this is who I am, this is what I do, back off. I didn't know how to do that. I can only say that now, years looking back, but that's what happened during the ages of 16 when I eventually left school. Because when I left school, my mom and dad couldn't afford international school anymore. So I started studying at home. And what was happening was I started to get more in conflict with my dad. My mom was a flight attendant. She was always off. And my mom couldn't connect with me on a rational level. My mom was still, in many ways, she was a kid. She still struggled to be a parent. And my yaya, who raised me, who was also a huge, she was a real mother figure in my life. She was gone by the age of 15. And so it's just me and my dad alone. And whenever I had issues, whenever I had problems, whenever I needed love, support, I'd always go to my dad. If I'm being bullied at school, if I'm in trouble with work. But now my dad started to become the institution, right? He felt like he needed to pressure me to make sure I was doing work because I wasn't in school anymore. And so the person that I go to for support wasn't there. And so instinctively I shut down. Why do I need to go to school? Why do I need to do anything my dad tells me? I don't have friends anymore. I'm not going to school. If I'm just going to school, university, get a job, family die, what's the point of life? Why don't I just kill myself right now? So it was interesting because that's when I first started getting depressed, but also when I sort of woke up to myself as an individual. I had to go through that shit to find who I am. But who I am was clipped. Like if my authentic self was a bird, I found the bird, but the wings were just clipped, right? And what got me out of it, ironically, was my sense of humor. I don't want to mention too much on my suicidal stuff. That's a whole nother story. But long story short, I was very close to killing myself. Super fucking close. Like looking out the window, looking down, and just jump, right? But what kept me there was, you know what, I was 16 at the time. I was like, maybe I should just get laid first before I think about killing myself. And people underestimate a sense of humor. We trivialize it a lot. But I swear to God, a sense of humor can do you tremendously, a lot more than any sort of pharmaceutical pill. And I mean that. Because a sense of humor is not just ha funny. It's I need a new perspective in life. That's it. Sense of humor gives you a new perspective, a lighter perspective, where it's less heavier. It lifts the weight off. That was the perspective I got. And it kept me going long enough to at least get to the next phase in life. Right? And so this is my theory on depression, based on my experience and other people's experience. It's when the identification of love totally fractures. So we only get depressed because we experience love. Period. But the issue is, and into some cases this is natural, we identify with the source of love. So my dad, he loves me. His love is who I am. And as a kid, I would think, or you would think, yeah, it's natural. The problem, but that's not the truth. Love comes from myself. My life comes from everywhere, right? It doesn't come from him only. But because that's how I was conditioned, that's also what led to the depression, because eventually that identification got fractured. It became obsolete. So how do I express love, right? So I went through the whole process of resenting him, hating him, etc. But I noticed this with other people too. And identification of love doesn't have to be a parent. It could be your friends. It could be your grades. This is why you have, like, it's common in Japan and Korea, kids jumping off fucking cliffs, hanging themselves in trees because they didn't get the highest grade possible because their parents pressured them to do that. Or it could be with an image of, I need to be this person, I need to have this amount of money in order to feel love, right? So again, it's not love. It's once you identify with it, that's the seed of depression. Because once it doesn't work, the depression comes in. You get all this pressure, like, fuck, I don't know what to do. People are telling me who I want to be. I don't feel love anymore. What the fuck do I do? And eventually, the process for me was depressurizing. So depression is actually a natural reaction to the whole thing. Depress is the opposite of pressure. I put pressure and I need to depress. Mostly because what am I depressurizing is the ability to be who I am and have love come from me. That's the basis of it. That's the basis end of depression. And when I reclaim responsibility. So you talk about, like, you couldn't imagine, like, how the fuck could a person with so much light be depressed? Well, it's because I take responsibility now for my love. Love is my responsibility. It's my duty. It doesn't come from anyone else. If nobody loves me, doesn't matter. It's my responsibility to give it and to create it, right? So, I pick up my bootstraps and say, fuck it, let's do it anyway. And that's the tougher part. And so one of the challenges for me was getting over blame and resentment. Here's the secret about most depression happens when we're teenagers, specifically, especially in this day and age. If you're a teenager and you're depressed, remember that you are always 100% right about your parents. All the shitty things they've done to you, everything they said, you're 100% right. And that's the fucking problem. So you can always stay in that negative state. You're 100% right. You have all the facts. And historically, 100%. Historically, you have all the facts that validate how you feel, all your negative emotions. That's the problem. The issue is, most people use that as an excuse to not be responsible. I'm right. Everybody's fucking this. Society's that. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, that's all true. It's like, good. Now I could just be pissed off all the time. Right? That was my issue. And I realized, yes, that's all true. But if I want to live a good life, I have to take responsibility for myself. I have to be courageous, which means I may not have freedom. I may not experience the love I want. People may not speak to me the way I want. I may be lost. I don't know. But it's still my responsibility to go through all that, to make something out of it. That is my material. That is my material as an artist. Let's make something interesting with it.
As a life artist, right?
As an artist of life. And that's when it really shifted for me. And I started doing rituals. Like I chopped up my high school diploma because that was a huge thing for me. I didn't want to graduate high school. I wanted to live an authentic life without any institution needing to validate me. And the big issue for me at the time was my parents obviously wanted me to graduate. But during my last few years in high school, when I went back, when I was having those issues with my dad at the age of 17, we agreed, because we couldn't live in the same house together, he agreed to move me to Canada to live on my own. And I finished high school, so it's a compromise. But when I started doing that, I started living with other families. I started to see the world through my own eyes. I started to read books. That's when I first read the Four Agreements. And that's when I started to attain a sense of personal freedom, and I started to question everything. I noticed school wanted us to take things personally. These grades, what teacher thought of us. They wanted us to make assumptions about who we are, how we needed to live, not do the best we can, and to make judgments of ourselves that are just not true. And I'm like, okay, if this is what school is doing, I want no part of it. And I know, and I wanted to prove to myself that I can do without it. But my issue at the time was, again, I didn't know how to set boundaries. Boundaries from my authentic self and to other people. Like, look, I need to stand up for my authenticity. So one of the ways I did it, I tried to win people over. I tried to, is there a way we can get along, find some sort of agreement? And for better or for worse, I discovered very interesting things. I went to my parent-teachers conference by myself. I wore like a nice suit and everything. And I asked all my teachers one question. I said, in the grand scheme of things, does high school really matter? And I just listened to what they said. Yeah.
That's super awesome.
And what's interesting, what I discovered was there's actually a delineation between what men think and what women think. What men think, men are actually quite insecure when it comes to when you challenge the institution and their lives that come from the institution. Teachers gave me questions like, well, how are you going to put food on the table? How are you going to make money? Then you're going to die. Or they didn't say that, but I knew that was where it was going. Other things was, how do you get credibility, right? You want a diploma, you want people to trust you, yada, yada, yada. And it was always that train of thought. The women were quite interesting. They were a bit more, the female teachers. There's still some insecurity there, but they're at least willing to open up about who they are. I had one teacher, her name was Mrs. O. She ranted. She's like, you know what? I don't know. I'm tired of my family. I have to take care of my kids. I have to pay the bills. You know what? I want to just be. And I remember that. And I'm like, that was the weirdest thing I ever fucking heard, but it's true. And I related to that. I had another teacher tell me, she gave me a rationale. She said, although I'm a teacher, and I understand that the institution is flawed, so I try to work from the inside. That didn't click with me because that's a form of negative harmony. So you appear harmonious, but really you're sucking up to the man, right? In some way. Essentially, you're cutting yourself in half. And then she looked at me and says, you know what, just follow your heart. And at the time, I knew it was true, but how many life coach and self-help gurus have said that out of their ass, and how is it doing for everybody on the planet? Not that great. It's true, but it has to manifest itself by example. You can't just say it. So it didn't click with me. And I talked to this other teacher, and I really liked, she said, you know what, I don't know. That's probably the best thing I ever heard. She just said, I don't know. I don't fucking know. But after I did all that, I went to my student counselor. I remember his name. His name's Mr. Petruzzi. I went up to him and I formed with him a consensus of everything all the teachers told me and what I believe that school wanted out of me. School wanted me to be educated, directed, disciplined, and learned in some way. Equipped to face on the world. And I said to him, I gave him my case, and I said, here's my case on how this is how I do it by myself without school. And I laid it out, and he looked at me, and he's like, oh, I thought you just wanted to leave and smoke weed all day. And so it caught him off guard, because that's why most kids want to leave. They don't have a prepared sense of an idea of how to do things they were offered on their own, right? They didn't think it through. They just like, oh, fuck it, I want to leave because I want to smoke weed. What was interesting, he started to rant for an hour about how he started to become Catholic and how he believed in God. And it wasn't related to anything, but it was just quite clear, like, okay, you have no idea. You just want me to stay, but you actually have no meat and potatoes behind it to really convince me. So what he did is he sent me to this one woman. Okay, she probably changed my life for the better. For better or for worse, because she wasn't perfect. But because I was interested in writing a book, writing a blog, doing a YouTube channel at the time on an authentic life. And her name was Miss Vellante, and he said, I want you to talk with her first before you go. And I was alone with her, and she really laid it on me. She said, okay, who are you? You know, are you this? Are you that? She was picking me apart. She's like, are you narcissistic? Are you gay? Are you insecure? Like, what's going on with you? Right? She felt like I was hiding something. And I told her, no, I wanted to live an honest life. And the school system does not support my life. I felt it's imposing upon me. And she saw me. I'm like, okay, this woman gets me. And then she saw me and said, okay, this dude's legit. He's not hiding anything. He's not hiding. He's not some secret homosexual. Like, this is a straight man. He's not crazy, and he's actually has an incredible mind, an incredible spirit. Okay, let's do something. And so what she did was, let's take all your courses that you're going to do at the end of high school, and you're going to do your own program. You're going to write stuff that you want related to what your teachers want you to complete. But it's all up to you by your design, and I'll work you through it. And hush, hush, no one else will know except for you, me, and the principal. And, of course, the student counselor at the time. And I'm like, damn, this sounds good. But one of the things she says, which was, I think, was to her mistake, which was, at least you want to try to find a way to make your parents feel secure. Because your parents want you to be happy, want you to be safe. And I bought into that. I'm like, okay, that seems reasonable. But the fact of the matter is, I found this out later, which is, I'm not responsible for anybody else's happiness or security. I couldn't do that for my parents. Anyway, during that process was an incredible experience. One, I got to do what I wanted to do, right? And I did it all on my own, communicating honestly with everybody, my teachers, the counselor, to eventually the person who would eventually mentor me at the time. And the caveat was, what was very useful was, the principal actually shadowed under her, right? And everybody in the school respected her. But all my teachers, all my classmates wondered, why is Joseph not in class anymore? But no, I couldn't tell anybody. So this is interesting, is that there are people secretly living an authentic life, but they're compromising with the institution. Because the institute doesn't want society to know that there are individuals who are living free, right? They are able to live outside the box. They're like, they don't exist. It's not really happening. Oh, he's just doing something special, yada, yada, yada. He's a little crazy. They did the same thing with Steve Jobs, yada, yada, yada. And I remember for my social studies class, I did a speech. For my English class, I did an essay on that. I think it was a book by a philosopher. I think it was something to do with authenticity. You guys will probably remember, but it's by a French dude. And I remember how much joy I had. I remember started doing my blog as part of my own program that I set for myself. But the problem was, I remember graduating on the day. I was wearing a nice white suit. Everybody was wearing white. And I remember, even though I did all that, I still didn't want to graduate. Because this does not reflect who I am. I don't support this system. And I did it just to keep my parents secure. And I remember seeing my dad there, because he was excited to see me graduate high school. And I remember getting my diploma from the principal and looking out into the audience, and I couldn't see my father. And I woke up in that moment like, who the fuck am I doing this for? I'm not doing this for me. I can't see my dad. I'm not doing this for him. I'm not doing this for anyone here. Instantly, I felt like an empty shell. So it was cool. On one hand, I was able to communicate and compromise in a way that I got to do what I wanted to do, but I didn't stand up for what really mattered, which was, this is not who I am. And I really don't believe in compromise. I think compromise, people say that all the time. People in politics, people in business, oh, you gotta learn to compromise. I think compromise is a big pile of bullshit. Be authentic, be true to who you are, be clear, and let it not work out. Because if you compromise, then I'm not true to who I am, and then what's the point of living? It's just a slow suicide. It's not real. And it basically creates this lifestyle of settling, that somehow settling is an okay way to live. It's not an okay way to live, right? And so people always talk about achieving your dreams, living to your fullest potential.
I just have to say amen to that. I mean, literally,
Yeah.
I'm speechless.
Yeah.
Speechless, bro. Yeah, you said it right there.
Thanks, brother. So people always talk about living your dreams, following your purpose, being on your path, wherever. I could tell you one thing. I know what it's like to be in the polar opposite of that. But I needed to know, understand my purpose in life, how to live to my truest potential here. I needed to go to the opposite first. And what that allowed me to do is to relate to other people who are going through that. Because let's say if I did stand up for myself, you know, I picked up my bootstraps like, you know what, Dad? No. This is what I'm going to do. If you're not happy, if you don't feel secure about it, too bad. Let's say I did that back then. I probably couldn't relate to people who were in the shit, who were depressed. I couldn't relate to people who weren't on their path, who were following their purpose in life. And I think that's the great lesson I needed to learn. I needed to learn what it's like to be in the shit. And if you're in the shit right now, it's a blessing in disguise, because you need to learn what it's like to be there, so when you're not there, you could still relate to other people who are there. It's so important, because nothing is worse than being some pretentious guru who's enlightened and done all this stuff, but you feel you can't relate to him on that level in the shit. People need to feel like, look, I'm in the shit with you. I don't have a solution. I cannot fix you, but I'm in here with you side by side. People need that. Because too often we have psychotherapists, pharmaceuticals, psychiatrists. Here's a pill. I'm not with you. I'm separate from you. Let me fix you so you're oriented into society again, right? But even though that works, you never get that companionship. There's a good quote.
Well, I would argue very much against the fact that it works.
Right.
I don't think it works at all.
Right.
Even if you're, all right, so you don't kill, you're suicidal, they put you on some pills, you don't kill yourself. Okay. But then what? Where are you 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line? You're a fucking zombie. So I wouldn't say it works.
But that's the thing. It, quote unquote, works in their view.
Oh, sure.
And so, but that's their lingo. That's how they describe it. But it's, again, through a mechanism. It's now you're a machine that works. That's the issue. Yes, it works, but it works at now you as just a machine that turns on and off. Right? Not as a living organism, as a human being, right? And again, you're depressed for a reason. It's a natural state. In the same way, if I go out into the rain and I'm wet, I don't need a pill to deal with how wet I am. What I do is I learn, I'm wet, I feel cold, I'm shivering. Let me dry off with a towel. Let me put on a raincoat next time. I learn to adapt. So what's happening with the mental health industry is they're saying, you're out in the rain for a long time, you're wet. Let me give you a pill so you don't feel wet anymore. You don't actually address the issue. You're still soaking wet, you just don't feel it anymore. I'm about to cry just thinking about it. So that's really the issue, and that's scary. People cut off a part of their nervous system that created the potential for all the wisdom, philosophy, and courage that we've been doing for the past millions of years. Because the pharmaceutical industry is like a recent invention. How do you think we've dealt with depression for the past millions of years? Somehow we got through it, right? But definitely it's a connection with nature that we're missing, and the nature within ourselves. And so that's the basic gist of my depression. And how I got out of it was obviously, one, through having a healing space, which was other actors, other artists, who said, your depression is part of your creativity. You can create with it. That was the basic message. That was all I needed. And I was given a space where, this is the one thing most depressed people appreciate, is when someone looks them in the eye and tells them the truth, doesn't bullshit them. I'd rather have someone hurt my feelings and tell me the truth when I was depressed than someone coddle me. Oh, everything's okay. Let me help you. It's like, no, I want the fucking truth. Tell me what's really going on. What do you see? And let me mature it on my own, right? Because obviously bullshit came out, resistance. But I was aware of that. I just wanted the fucking truth, right? And that's the most important process when it comes to de-identifying the source of love from the outside and discovering love from oneself. And discovering love from oneself is learning that the most important thing to love is the truth. Honesty. Someone just being authentic with you, not bullshitting. And I also learned the difference between the truth and authenticity. When I tell the truth, I could say, this is light blue, teal, I'm drinking tea, this is a black microphone, this is a green towel, I could see the color of your eyes, you look well. And then there's authenticity, which is, oh, I feel excited talking to you, I feel grateful. I was actually quite insecure starting the podcast, I was nervous. I'm a bit self-conscious of people seeing me through camera. I don't know who's watching me. I don't know what consequences I'd get once this is out on the internet. That's authenticity. So authenticity is the truth of who I am and how I experience the world.
You literally just described what I'm taking people through during my comedy therapy. Literally, like, I've just been doing these shows. Right. I just did one here. It's so much fun. I'm just showing people it's okay to be you. It's okay to talk about your pain and your trauma and all the fucked up things that happen in your life, because we're all human. We all have that trauma, and that's where all the power comes from. That's where authenticity comes from. Not trying to cover up or pretending you're normal or pretending you're not fucked up. Share your truth. Be who you are. All of it. The joy and the great parts and the fucked up parts and the trauma and the parts that you're trying to forget about. All of it is you. And it's all of us, right? It's all of us. So that sharing and finding, and that's, after 20 years being a comic, helping people find that comedy gold in the trauma and bringing it out. Man, it not only is it hilarious, everyone's got funny stories, everyone. It's so healing. Just being authentic in your truth and who you are is so healing. And that's what's happening to people in the comedy therapy circles I've been running. So literally, I'm just starting to realize you would be awesome facilitating those. Holy shit. That would be so good. And I think the people are starting to understand why I knew on the podcast. Now they're like, oh, interesting. Interesting. Sasha doesn't fuck around. So dude, I've never heard that story before, right? Yeah. Blew my fucking reality. Like, holy shit. Unfucking believable. And the parallels to, like, real life. Like, holy crap. So I went through exactly the same thing as you in school. Like, I think I was happy up to, like, grade, I don't know. I was kind of okay for a while. Like, when it was still having fun or whatever, I don't know. Maybe at age 6 or 7 or 8, it was okay. But, like, as soon as I got a little bit deeper in, and high school and all this kind of stuff, really, all the forced learning, like, every bit of my soul was like, I don't need this is bullshit. All the institutionalized, like, you have to do this, you have to follow, all this kind of stuff. It was so anti-freedom. It was so anti-me expressing who I am and my joy. It felt so wrong. I couldn't explain it. I couldn't explain why, but I just hated all of it. Just every single part of it. I hated it. It was unbelievable. I remember when I was thrown out of high school, and I've been thrown out of high school multiple times in multiple schools. Okay, so I haven't even shared all that stuff with the world, but another time. But one of the times I was kicked out, I was being kicked out of, I think, grade 10. Yeah, grade 10. And they were literally like, you're done here. We're not having you back anymore. And I was walking out. It's weird because it was part of my mind was like, okay, this is bad. This is bad. Like I'm being thrown out. And a part of me was like, fine, good. This is the best thing that could happen. It was weird because I knew on some deep level, good. But part of me is like, ooh, I could get in, you know what I mean? I could get in trouble for this. It's so wrong. And I think the problem is people are so used to suppressing who they are, their own internal knowing of what's right, their own ability to express their uniqueness, their ability to actually live authentically, to be authentic, to speak authentically, to live their truth. It's so radically crazy to even be honest or be who you are or express your truth. It's normal to suppress who you are and conform, whether it's in high school or in society at large. Conforming to what everyone believes is normal is normal. If it wasn't, nobody could get away with oppressing a child and brainwashing a child into anything, whether it be, you have to learn this stuff in school, or you have to get this degree, or you have to get this job, or you have to learn this religion. If we were truly connected with our hearts, there would be no religion. You would not be allowed legally to teach a child under the age of 18 any religious beliefs because it's brainwashing. Oh, you're 6 years old. We're going to tell you how it works, son. And imagine I'm your father, and I'm telling you about religion and what you have to believe in, about if you're going to go to hell if you do this, all this, whatever stuff. Literally, you're brainwashing someone who knows in their heart that that's not the truth. But because you're their parent and they love you, and you must be telling them the truth because you there's a love there, they're gonna believe it. So I mean, it's horrific. Totally, all of it is horrific, and it's normal. Suppressing who we are and our truth and our instincts about what's okay and what's not okay, that is normal. That's what the Matrix is. We tell you what to do. We tell you what to think. We tell you what to believe. We tell you what's normal. And if you don't like it, we'll put you on antidepressants or we'll lock you up. Oh, you're having a spiritual awakening? Put them on some pills and put them in a fucking straitjacket and throw them away. Throw them away. If it doesn't conform to 3D normality of what everybody's doing, you're a freak, you're a weirdo, and put them on some pills. That's the Matrix. You've literally summed it up in your high school experience. And what's fascinating is you woke up, basically. That's what happened. You woke up, and she was she couldn't believe it at first because at first she's like, oh yeah, there's something going on here that needs to come out. And then she realized, oh no, this guy actually knows what is authentic, knows who he is, and will not tolerate the system, which she knows is totally fucking bullshit, right? And so their only choice was expel you from waking the fuck up, which would make them look really bad because you're just there going, no, I know who I am, this is bullshit. I don't think they could. So it would make them look bad. So they were like, all right, well, we're going to have to, we'll just tell everyone he's special or whatever, and we'll just make a unique program for him, and then he doesn't have to leave the system. But everyone is special. Everyone has their unique gifts and their unique truth. Every single human being. So in society, I mean, you said it. In society, when somebody's like a Steve Jobs or some genius who refuses to follow the rules and goes off and does their own thing, they just go, oh, well, that guy's special. He's a genius. Just him. Not you. You're not a genius. I'm not a genius. But that guy who was bold enough to follow his heart and go and change the fucking world by being who he is, he's special. Not you and me, though. You just conform. But that guy's okay to do it. Right? When the truth is, everyone is that guy. Everyone is Steve Jobs. Everyone is, fucking Michael Jackson. Everyone has their own unique gift. Right? But the only difference is certain people, they refuse to conform. And they go for it regardless of the brainwashing. They have the courage or the life circumstance or something that allows them to pursue that gift. Right? And you, by a fucking miracle, you were able to express that and wake up enough to express who you are, and they had to change the whole fucking system around you, And holy shit, that's all I have to say. I'm blown away by it. Holy fucking shit. That's all I have to say. I'm giving you the mic.
Okay. And I do want to add too, because you mentioned that you were in high school, you felt it. You felt this deep feeling. And the thing is, many kids who are in high school, they have that deep feeling. So how was I different? Again, to go back, what really put the authorities, the teachers off guard was my mastery of language. I knew how to communicate through their values. I researched their mentality. I asked them, again, in the grand scheme of things, does high school really matter? And I listened. So what's important is that I didn't talk to them. I listened to them first. When it comes to being authentic, it's not about me showing my authenticity to the world. It's, I'm going to let you be authentic, let me listen, and I'll communicate through you. And it totally caught them off guard because, again, they're like, can't kick me out. He gave a legit argument, a legit explanation, a legit plan of how to proceed onward on his own. If we kick him out, it's going to look terrible on us, right? So we got to fulfill this guy's needs, but also somehow compromise because we still want this kid to graduate in our high school, right? But that's super important. I knew how to communicate through someone else's values. I was communicating on such a high level at such a young age. Most of us don't have the time to develop that skill. And I take credit to those first 2 years when I left school at 15 and I started to get depressed, all that. I had sanctuary. One of the greatest things that you've been told is bad is actually good for you is procrastination. Procrastination is a symptom of your mind going, this isn't interesting. This isn't interesting. This is not aligned with who I am. If it's aligned with who you are, you're not going to procrastinate. Nobody ever procrastinates taking a shit. Taking a shit is totally aligned with who you are. You need to take that shit, right? So it's natural. But we don't think of it in that way. So procrastination is a symptom of something, a deeper problem you're not addressing. Remember, the body never lies to you. And I listened to that. I listened to that urge. I took the time to listen. And I read a lot of books on communication. That's what I was fascinated with. Also, again, I was also picking up chicks at the time, right? At the age of 18 to 19, I talked to, approached 1,000 girls at that year. I was such a fucking dork, I counted. Like 1,000 girls. But because I went through that, talking to my teacher and being honest with them was easy. It was easy. So it was intimidating to see a student who was not intimidated, right? I was able to see through their values. I understood their language. I understood their code. I could speak of who I am through their code. That scares the fuck out of people. And that's really how many revolutions start. You have someone like Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, very, very, very well-educated people. But they see the truth. They see something's not right. And they see there's something more authentic that needs to come out. But they also understand the language of the enemy, of the person who's repressing them. And they know how to communicate through them. And in most cases, which is just a form of love and listening, right? But you understand their language. So I understood the language of school. I understand how they thought. I understood the system, right? Because a lot of people want to rebel against the system, but also not understand it and not listen to it. Like, fuck school is bullshit, and it's natural. So again, I had those feelings too, but I can also communicate through their code. And this is the most important thing. You have to understand other people's values, other people's beliefs, and view other people's beliefs and values like a language, like Chinese, Mandarin, Spanish, English, etc. Understand values and beliefs like another language. When you research on those beliefs and values, you can actually communicate through them, right? So it doesn't matter whether someone believes in God, believes in atheism. It's not my business to tell them to play the truth game of what's true and not true. I want to connect with you on an authentic level. This is what you believe. Okay, I'll speak through that, right? And you see they open up. Not only do they open up, you don't even believe in what they believe, but they feel like you've been friends for years. And you have totally diametric beliefs. So that's probably the most important thing I can clarify in this whole experience, because everybody has that feeling. It's the truest feelings. Your truest feelings coming out. Sasha had it. I had it. But understanding how to communicate, how to see other people's values, other people's beliefs, and communicate through them. And taking that time to listen first is huge. But again, the lesson I needed to learn, which I had to learn the hard way, which was also don't believe in the fear. Because I was still afraid, you know? And people were telling me, you know, just make your parents happy, make your parents secure, just get that diploma anyway. Look at all the good things that can happen. You could get a job, blah, blah, blah. I didn't end up getting a job for years because I was depressed because of it, because I wasn't representing myself, right, for who I really am. So it's kind of ironic, really. But that was the trap, which was, yes, I did all that. I stood up against the system. I was able to create a syllabus, a curriculum, more reflecting who I am and what I wish to do in life. But I still believed in the fear that if I don't compromise in some way, something bad will happen, or I may hurt the people I love. And then the whole cycle continues of, that's none of my business. If you get hurt, you get hurt. That sucks. But it's not my responsibility for how you feel. I'm responsible for how I feel and doing the best I can. If you don't want to get hurt, if you want to be secure, if you want to be happy, that's on you, dude. And I had to learn to say that to my parents, look in the eye, like, that's on you. And your security, happiness has nothing to do with your children. And I also had to learn that lesson, understand what it's like to be in their shoes. Because it's called fusion, where the parent attaches so much of their happiness and security onto the child. But they also repress the child's authenticity, being who they are. Because they want their child to be happy and secure so badly. But that's also, ironically, what led to my depression. And it's hard to talk about because most people who are depressed, who got out of depression, if they really wanted to talk about it, that means they have to talk about their family life. They have to talk about really private things about their mothers, their fathers, their girlfriends, boyfriends, their friends, because it's not a mental illness. It's a relationship illness. If it's a mental illness, then I can pop a pill. If it's a relationship illness, I have to deal with my relationships head on, voluntarily confront it. And that's hard. And also, nobody makes money out of that shit. Nobody makes money if it's a relationship illness.
No, you can still make money.
Yeah, you can still make money.
You can still make money. It's capitalism.
Someone make money. Some motherfuckers still going to find a way to make money. But it's just going to be less material. Like, it's not as simple as...
Yeah, well, it'll be done in a much healthier way. I mean, honestly, dude, listening to you fucking talk, dude, it's making me realize the power of what I've just been doing with my life, you know, with comedy therapy. It's literally what you're talking about. It's digging up shit in your life that's fucking with you, that's keeping you like that you're holding in, and just making jokes about it and having fun and share. So we're literally teaching people how to be authentic with who they are, with their pain, right? Do you realize the breakthroughs? I mean, people could have if they just were like, all right, well, you know, I'm depressed, blah blah blah. Let's go to this comedy show. And then people are just put in a place where they feel comfortable and loved and safe enough to just share some of that. And it comes out and they're laughing about it. And they're like, oh, my God, I can talk about my fucked up relationship. And it's okay. It's okay. It's really fucking profound. God damn it. It all comes down to authenticity. I mean, literally what you're saying is the cure for depression is actually authentic communication. Authenticity, living your truth, speaking your truth, not running away from what is. That's what you're saying is basically the cure. And it's... Holy shit. And I know on some level people know that taking a pill isn't the cure. But yeah. Dude, you could come up with your own fucking your own method. You could be a guy who just goes around curing depression through authentic communication. That would be legit.
Well, I think the thing is I don't need to cure it, because for my depression, I just realized that within my depression is also the antidote. It's the same place, right? And that's the most important thing that I learned. But I also have to be responsible for it. And there's a whole process of, again, pre-depression, which is the whole setup, which is the identification of love. In depression, which is the identification of love fractures. And there's this need to depressurize, right? All the things that telling you what you should be. And then after that, which is actually what I've been through in the past year, 2 years or so, which is now the path to authenticity. Because yes, my depression was done, finished at the age of 22. But so here's the sneaky part. If you're depressed and you're not depressed anymore, chances are you still have the same habits you did have when you were depressed. Things like not learning to set up boundaries, right? Respecting yourself, learning to say no, learning to be more upfront and honest earlier on in the relationship, stuff like that. Also, being comfortable with your anger, because what I realized when I was depressed is that I was never angry. I do believe, again, this is more theoretical, there's not just a link with love, but a link with anger. Because healthy anger, not destructive anger, healthy anger is, there's something I really value. It's the basis of my survival, of who I am, and I will defend it. Oh, hummingbird. That was gorgeous.
That was amazing, yeah.
I hope you guys saw that.
I think it was in the shot for a second.
I think it was, that was gorgeous. Yeah. Yeah. But I noticed, I look back and I'm like, why didn't I get angry? Why didn't I get angry at my dad? Why didn't I get angry at my teachers? Why didn't I just lose it? That's part of the depression is I want to maintain my attachment. I don't want to lose love because I identify with it. So what happens is that I repress all the things that may break it, which includes my anger. But the anger is also connected to your ability to assert yourself. And the ability to assert yourself is also connected to your authentic self. So it's a chain reaction of, oh, I don't want to be angry. Angry's bad. Don't assert myself. Don't have boundaries. No authentic self. Depressed. And when I'm a teenager, it just I don't see it. But looking back, that is the chain reaction that happens. And that's the danger. So anger is healthy. Anger is healthy. It's just you're defending something that really has survival value. Somebody hurts Sasha, I'm angry. I love him. He is a part of my survival of who I am, right? I think the Dalai Lama mentioned that to some degree. But that's essentially the basis of it. Every emotion has a purpose. Every emotion has value, right? It's just keep in mind there's always healthy and negative versions of that. But all emotions are valuable. They're all good. And you should express every part of your emotional spectrum. But just keep in mind to understand what the healthy version of that is, right? And not repress it in entirety. Because that's usually what happens when it comes to depression and anxiety, especially. Because anxiety is really just a rejection of excitement. But at a really young age, a lot of people get shut down, right? Yeah, whoa. No, stop. That's dumb. Oh, if I get excited, something bad will happen. And then unconsciously, or at least subconsciously, you pick that up. As a kid, you just decide to do that without realizing. And so whenever you experience excitement, as an adult, that's anxiety. But as a kid, it was probably just excitement. It's probably all it was. In the same way, depression is, it started out as love. It started out as love. You love somebody. But it's my identity. It's who I am. I love my girlfriend. Then she leaves me. Oh my God, I need to go kill myself. That happens a lot. But that's what I noticed. That's at least the seed of it. And nobody talks about it in this way, which what really bothers me. I'm not sure if you want to go into this part, the part where when I was 22, during the time when I started to, I was looking for an agent as an actor, but I was also...
So before, well, hang on a second. It feels like you need to, like, because everything you said, it's fucking epic. I think you should write your own personal, like, unified depression theory. Yeah. Like, literally, like, get it out on paper, like, make a fucking system. And I don't know what it is you're going to do, but it's going to be epic. But whether it's like an ebook course, a video course, whatever, but if you actually make people, because a lot of people will watch this and they'll go, this is amazing, it'll make sense, and I'm sure it'll help a lot of people. But to have it actually laid out, like, okay, this week you're going to work on this. You need to understand this. Here's some exercises. This week you're going to work on this. To actually make something like that, that could be huge. It could be a huge tool for people that would help people. I mean, if you can have a course that actually helps people work through depression without medication, do you realize how huge that could be? How many people that could help? That's fucking huge, dude. So I want to encourage you officially on this podcast to do that shit, because that's world-changing shit. Really, really, really proud. It doesn't mean it's the only thing you could do, but you could get it out there. You could just do it, get it out there. I'm happy to promote it, get it out into the world. But holy shit!
Yeah.
Now you weren't about to go into some other epic story, right?
I was about to go to some other epic story.
I don't think we have time for that shit, bro.
I don't think
No. So we got about 10 minutes. We're gonna wrap up this thread, and then we'll do another podcast about other shit. But holy fuck, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just shared so much. It's just so epic. Everything you said is just so epic, and it's just. This has been really my life's work. Like, I think you just got to things so much quicker than me, frankly. I mean, I'm 40, right? And I think in the last couple of years, I've really the thing is about life. It's like you think you're there, but then there's the next level and the next level, and it really is an infinity game. There's no end to it. But you reached a point of authenticity and knowing yourself at age 18 that I might have had at 38 or 37. You know what I mean? Like ridiculous. You hit a level where I maybe hit a few years ago where I'm like, no, or something like that. I don't know. So that's unbelievable, and it seems like it's just getting faster for people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's getting, and obviously you had the influence of me. So, you know what I mean? So I helped you, and others think people helped you, and then now you're going to help. So there'll be kids maybe now who are 14 watching this interview going, fuck this, I know who I am. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think so, because that just seems to be how it's happening, and I think we're in a very special time right now, time of global awakening. But wow, holy shit. Holy shit! Did you know when all that was happening? Did you realize like this is going to be a crazy story one day? Like, or you were just doing your thing, and did you ever have the thought like one day I'm going to fucking tell this on a video or something, and people are going to be like, what the fuck? Or it didn't even occur to you?
No, I knew someday that the secret's gonna get out, and as long as I stay alive, I'm like, this is gonna be a crazy fucking story, and this is the little bit of inspiration that people need to manifest this in their own lives. Like, I know it's just gonna explode, like it's gonna combust. Yeah, without a doubt, I knew this is a big deal. It was just a matter of when, and it was a matter of also, I think, just going through my own hero's journey, right? Because I'm still going through that right now. I probably will till the day I die, right? But yeah, I had this story with me for a long time, and I'm like, this is juicy. Yeah. This is juicy. But I kept it on the shelf, and I'm like, you're gonna come out someday.
Dude, I'm so glad I came out to it. Like, we didn't have that planned either. Like, I had another thing I want to talk to him about, which is right? Just as epic. Like, is so awesome. And we were gonna do that, and now I'm like, no, we ain't doing that today. We'll do that another time. No. To
get into that too. I'm like, oh, maybe no.
Nah,
it's like, wow.
It's gonna be another. We're gonna come back. We're gonna come back and do that one. But it's just one of those that, like this one and the other one, it just has to be put out there into the world. Yeah. It just has to be put out there into the world like a virus. It's just once it's out, and people will be like, "Holy shit!" Yeah, it's just unfucking believable. But at that age, that you could just discover who you are to that level where you're just like, "I'm not playing this fucking game." I wish I was there when I was with that age. I wish I was. Really, that would have been amazing, but I wasn't. And I went through my own hero's journey, right? Which is quitting high school, running away from home, being homeless. Becoming a comedian, becoming doing the day again, becoming a dating coach, figuring out all, my journey, my story's crazy. I mean, they're both, but holy, so I'm still on my hero's journey too. Yeah. And you always get to these new, these new levels and awakenings and healings. So you really become like, life, it really is just about getting absolutely clear on who you are, but it comes in phases. Like, just like with your Krishnamurti story, that was one piece. Wow, you had an experience where, like, some part of you melted away and you were able to see the beauty and all think, great, you're not fucking done, right? But it was one amazing thing that happened, just like this story is an amazing thing. And I've had all these amazing things. And you just, as you get older, you're just getting more and more and more clear. And as you get that clarity, great peace comes with it. I've never been as just okay with who I am and just peaceful and just being. Like, there's nothing I have to, even though there's so much that I want to go do in the world like this, because it's who I am. But it's coming from that place of, because I know who I am and I'm so happy being what I am and who I am. It's the expression of that's going to happen automatically. There's not that part of me. Oh, I need to. If this podcast doesn't get this many views, I suck. That's not there. I just have to express who I am. Just like you putting that story out. It doesn't matter how many people see this. You've put it out there. You've lived it and you've expressed it, and it's out there in the world. And you're being who you are, and you're putting it out there, and that's all there is to it. And that's basically what was your message. This was your message. When you're talking about your parents, and it's not about keeping them happy or how to. You're fucking being you. That's it. You're living your truth. Your truth will never be purposefully hurting other people, because truth is never that. The truth, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. The truth of you being who you are is never going to come from a place of because nobody on the deepest level, your truth is never, I want to go and do horrible things to other people. It's never that, because on the soul level, there is no evil on the soul level. It's the ego that's confused and damaged and not loved, and it wants to lash out. But on the deepest level, this truth is never bad for anyone. But it sure is good for you. And actually, that light of you being who you are, even though temporarily your parents might be like, oh, fuck, well, we failed. He doesn't love us. He's dropped out of school. Actually, you truly being in that, who you are and living your bliss, eventually, when people see that, your parents and everyone else it will inspire them to live their truth, because they'll realize, actually, that's all you're doing. Eventually, when people go, no, he's just doing his thing. He's being himself truly. That will inspire others. And I'm hoping that's what what all these podcasts are doing. But wow, this one specifically, holy shit, is all I have to say about that. I think we just ended there, bro. I think so. So, dude, Joseph Litman, he doesn't even have a fucking website or a blog. He doesn't have shit. But I'll tell you what, let's make this vow. The next time we do a podcast, you're going to get a blog or something together so that people that want to connect with you can come and find you. Okay. We'll do that. Yeah. Okay. So Joseph motherfucking Litman. But you can do a closing statement. Yeah.
I'll do a closing statement. If you want to reach me for now, at the moment you're watching this podcast, my email is Joseph_Litman, Litman, @hotmail.com, all lowercase. And you could add me on Facebook as well. There are to be two things that I'll start. One is a YouTube channel. You'll be able to find me through my name. And also, I'm starting a meetup group in Vancouver as well. And if you want to see what I want to do with that, which is essentially I'm creating a small meetup group which creates an unconditional form of education. So people can experience an authentic learning experience. And there's no authority, there's no coach, no nothing, no teacher, no therapist, no nothing. There's no method, no nothing. You bring in your values, you're alive. That's the basis of all learning. And you don't have to make sense other than just bring in what you're interested in, what you're concerned, what you're fascinated with, what really turns you on. And those two things will, the next time our next podcast, those two things will be done, absolutely. So reach me for now on Facebook, email, and eventually my meetup group here in Vancouver and YouTube channel.
So it'll be a couple of weeks before this goes up. So if you get a page up before then, I'll be able to link it on YouTube, and I'll put a little link in the YouTube for this. Cool. All right. Love you guys. This has been freaking epic, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out. Ciao. But I really feel like that interview was a fucking deadly virus put into people's consciousness, where no grown or young being, but no human being can watch that, go back to their life and go, yeah, that kid could do it when he was 18 years old. He could speak his truth and just be true to himself and fucking have it work. But I could never do that. No, he's special. And again, that's the poison that society's saying. These geniuses do it once in a while, but you can never live your truth. You can never be who you are and be happy and find your way in this world. It's impossible for you. Other people, sure, but not for you. I mean, then they would themselves be putting themselves in that box. Do you see? Because they've seen the story. They know the truth. They've heard it enough. They know this happened. This is real. This is real. So if it's real for you, why can't it be real for them? You see, it's no longer this theoretical, like, oh, yeah, maybe some people have a... No. This fucking guy, he's not famous, just a fucking normal kid, did it. Lived his truth. So I think we just fucked everyone over completely. I think we just ruined everyone. We ruined people's lives.
Yeah, no, it's funny because you're asking me, like, how long have you been keeping this story? And it's like, Christ. I don't tell it often. I don't tell it often at all. I'm not even sure even my parents know. Did I tell my dad? See, that's the thing. I didn't even know.
You got to send this when it comes out to your fucking parents, dude.
I know, that'd be crazy. I'm pretty sure my mom doesn't know either, but I think I remember mentioning this to a few close friends, and it's the same reaction. Their mind's fucking blown. Like, how the fuck did you do that, right? And then I have some friends, of course, ask me like, okay, but really, can you break it down for me? How did you do that? That's why I sort of mentioned earlier about how to communicate through people's values, belief systems, and you have to perceive it like a language, like they're speaking another indigenous foreign language, and communicate through that way. Because people are attached to their values and their beliefs. That's a fact. They're attached to their values and beliefs in the same way. I call it the lion tamer metaphor. If you're a lion, right? If you're a wild lion, if any human being approaches you, you're cautious and you're ready to kill this person, right? You have no familiarity with this person. But let's say you're a cub and you grew up being tamed by a human being, this particular human being, the lion tamer. Imagine that lion tamer being your value system, your belief system. And people think, wow, lions get along with human beings. That's great. And then another human being comes along and the lion tears them the fuck up. It's like, but this human being's okay. Why is he okay spending time with that lion? It's like, well, because he conditioned them. They're not going to attack what conditioned them. Even supposedly it's totally foreign to them, nothing to do with who they are as a lion. The lion doesn't need a lion tamer. It was totally capable out in the wild on its own, trusting its instincts, living according to nature. Totally fine, right? But it's conditioned by it. So when I'm challenging people who believe in something, who work in an institution, a business, etc., right? Like, I'm trying to get at the authentic person. I want authenticity. I want to communicate honestly and truthfully. I am going to collide with their value systems and beliefs, and they will defend it to the death because they think that's who they are. And I say, okay, that's who you are. I will confirm it. Okay. I will communicate through that. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. That sort of thing. But deep down, I know who I am, and I'm not a Roman. But as long as I'm in Rome, I'll do as the Romans do. And that takes a lot of fucking courage. That takes a lot of thick skin. Martin Luther King, he stood up getting beaten in a non-violent protest in front of people who thought he was a piece of shit because of the color of his skin. He stood there with people, and they took it, right? But you got to continue communicating who you are. Continue communicating who you are. Don't give in to attachment, to the fear. Even though the other people may be so convincing. Hey, something bad might happen. You may lose all your money. People may not love you. It's very convincing. And I'll be honest, I fell through that. But that's the lesson I needed to learn.
Well, so all of that stuff that prevents people from going for it and actually, and a lot of people out there, they know deep down what they want to be doing. They might not know exactly who they are, but they know that they want to be doing something more creative, or maybe they want to be a musician, or maybe they want to be work with animals or whatever, something where they're pretty clear, they have an idea of what, and they're not doing it at all now. And that programming that they've heard from everyone, oh, but you can't make money doing that. You can't make a career. You have to have a real job, right? That won't be successful. Or you could be successful, but odds are if you start that business, there's a good chance you're going to fail. You're going to lose everything. You're going to be homeless. And people actually worry about this. People genuinely worry that they're going to end up homeless on the street. This is actually a fear. Now, so all of those things that people say to stop us from going and living our truth, it's all fear-based. It's all fear-based. And fear, now we're gonna get pretty spiritual woo-woo, but ever since, my fucking big ego death experience, I have a little bit more like clarity on certain things. Fear comes from the ego. Only. Fear comes from the ego. It is the ego construct that is not real, that was created. It was created as we were born. We come into this world and we start taking on all of these beliefs and fear. The first time, this is something that Paul said that just resonated with me. Is a good example. When you're a baby, the first time you cry and no one comes, you make a belief up about yourself. I'm not loved because I'm crying and I need someone and no one is coming. No one cares about me. I'm not loved. The first time that happens, you start believing some shit, and the ego starts to come in. Oh, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not worthy. Right? So all the conditioning that happens as we grow up, which is huge, all fear stems from the ego, which needs to be significant, which needs to be loved, which needs to be different, special, better than others, that needs to feel safe, right? All of these things, it's not the person, it's not the soul, it's all the ego. All fear comes from the ego. Because our true nature, the soul, spark of God embodied in a human being, that soul that is always God connected, that soul cannot experience fear. There is no, it's like it would be the equivalent of saying God is scared. God is not scared. God is all that is. God is not scared. There's no fear. Fear is not real. The soul, when you truly remember who you are, there is no scared. You are one with God. You are one with your purpose. You know why you're here. There is no separation between you and other beings because only the ego knows separation. Only the ego creates separation because it is afraid for its life. Oh, it believes, oh, that person over there might kill me or might take my money or take my family or whatever. So all the fear, it's all based on this idea of separation. It's not the truth. It doesn't exist. When you wake up, you realize there is no ego. The ego wasn't real, and all the fears that come from it are also not real. It was all the unreal. What is real is the permanent, what is always in existence. That is real, and that is who I am. That is my nature, and that is I am. That is real, consciousness itself, the God force itself, and on a unique soul individuated level. This particular soul, which has its own unique characteristics, this soul is funny and likes telling stories and likes interviewing people and likes dogs, and another soul might not like being funny and not getting up on stage and might prefer cats and might like to travel and, whatever. We all have our own unique individuated soul, but without the ego construct, with the death of the ego, only the soul remains. There is no fear. There is no separation. So when people start tuning into their true nature, this is what, and there's many, many ways to this, but their true nature, they would never listen. When you're connected to on the soul level, who you are in your heart, when somebody says to you, oh, that business, you following your passion, Joseph, that'll never work. Because you might fail, and it's difficult to succeed out there, and you're probably going to end up homeless. So you can't be who you are. If you're connected to the soul, on the soul level, and you're in your heart, and you know who you are, this will mean nothing to you. And you'll actually look at this being and say, oh, that's the ego. And you would feel compassion for the ego. You go, oh, yes, it's too bad you're still in your ego consciousness, brother. I feel love for you, and I really understand. And you'd want to hold that person and love them because they're still lost. They're in the ego. Because if this person, you cannot relate to the message because you know in your heart who you are. There's nothing that can stop you from being who you are ever, because it is the God force itself expressing itself uniquely in this individuated soul experience. That can never be stopped. It can never be killed. It can never have lack. It can never have separation because that soul is in alignment. It is God itself. It's just a spark of God, but there's a direct connection there. Does that make sense? This entire matrix is created with one purpose. Make you believe that you're powerless, that you're the ego construct, and that there's fear and death and lack exist, and that there's separation between all beings. There is no separation. It was never real, and all awakening is, and the different phases of it are realizing more and more the ultimate truth that there was only one being here. That's all enlightenment is. That's all awakening is. But there's different levels. Like you had a pop, you had a pop. We all have pops. We have different experiences, and that layer, the ego goes away, and the truth sets in, the truth of oneness. And of course, you have these high experiences, and eventually the ego comes back in a little bit. Oh no, you still have to work, you still have to do these things. That's fine. And then you have another experience, and the ego gets crushed more, and you get more into the ultimate truth, and it keeps going. And I'm going to assume here that full liberation, absolute total enlightenment, that's when there is no at all. Like you're totally all. It is just God. The ego's gone, and there's other fucking things that have happened. That basically there's all that's left is God. Totally. And whoa, that would be a fun place to be. But does that make sense? That was a fucking nice rant. But basically that's where I'm at with everything.
But I do wanna contrast what you said and also support the message you're trying to communicate for the less spiritual woo-woo types.
Sure.
So I'll give something less spiritual woo-woo, which is you have an experience right now as you're watching us. You have your own fears, you have your own things going on, and you're listening to Sasha. And Sasha's communicating something really important that has to do with your life, delineating from illusions and self-deception in order to look someone else in the eye and say, this is who I am, and I am living based on who I am and going forth, right? Because I know some people may not believe in God, or there's some psychologists out there who understand that the ego, the concept of the ego is not really scientifically founded in terms of if I cut open my brain, you don't find an ego. So it's another way of realizing there is no ego. It's just like if I cut open my brain, there is no ego, right? It's just there's no evidence for it. It's more of a label to identify certain behaviors, certain actions, or certain ways I think about the world. It essentially comes from you thinking. Remember, the word ego came from Sigmund Freud. I'm not a fan of Freud. But this is a guy who supposedly thought the ego exists that's trying to attach, trying to control, trying to secure. But ironically, it was coming from a guy, this is important about Freud, he was also very controlling and trying to secure and trying to prove other people that his psychoanalysis is a good method. He was very insecure trying to prove other scientists that was correct. So he did have to invent a lot of psychological concepts that aren't true. And it got picked up by other people, right? So sit in your chair. There's something you know you really want to do. Me and Sasha don't know it, but you know it, and that's all that's important. Someone told you a reason to be afraid, a punishment, a consequence. You're going to lose money, be homeless, as an arbitrary example. Don't escape it. Stay with it. Imagine you're homeless, you have no money. Let it happen to your body. Let yourself feel it. I feel lost. I feel ashamed. Let yourself feel that. Then what happens? Then you die. I die. What happens when I die? Let yourself feel that. Let yourself all the things that you've been told to be afraid of, that you were told that you would receive punishment for. Let your imagination just go there. Let it flow there, because the conditioning is still in you, in your nervous system. Detox it, flush it out, right? Your ego, quote unquote, still is creating that story. Let the ego, respect the ego. Let it tell its story. Okay, I'm listening. Wow, that sucks. That really sucks. Oh my God, fuck. Okay. And then look at the present moment. Open your eyes and, okay, I'm here in this chair. And then integrate it. Integrate how you really felt, what you learned from that experience. And you be the measurement. You are the ruler in terms of like the mathematical ruler. You be the measurement of if it's true or not. It's not true. There's nothing in the present that supports that story. That story, what it has is a lot of fear and a lot of emotions from other people that I assume that is true. But what is important is that no matter what I say or what Sasha says, what we're saying, we're translating it based on our experience. You have to form your own vocabulary. This is so important. I cannot stress this enough. That as someone who watches YouTube a lot, back when I was a teenager, I was looking up to you. I was looking up to all these guys and looking for answers. I had to go through my experience by myself and face myself and form my own understanding. Because what would happen is I'd look at Sasha. Like, Sasha's an inspiration to me. He's my role model, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is that I start to incorporate his vocabulary. And then my ego says, yes, look at Sasha. He knows how to solve your problems. And then the ego traps me again and forms a new construct, which is I'm a miniature Sasha. It's that's how clever it is. That's how clever the storytelling machine is. So think of it as the thinking process, the mind. The mind, the ability to fantasize, your ego, the ability to simulate reality. That's all that process here. And the basis of that process, which comes from a million-year adaptation, which is I see a footprint on the ground and it looks like a predator. So I imagine the predator in my mind. That was the basic development of all mental capacities for human beings, the frontal cortex, which we call the ego in recent decades, right? So it has a purpose to simulate, to imagine, but it's not real, right? But you have to be responsible for that. You go through it yourself and be critical. Don't just quickly latch on to someone else's verbal interpretation. See Sasha's truest feelings behind it. I understand what Sasha means. I understand Sasha's truest feelings. Tap in it to myself. And don't fall into trap to imitating my verbal interpretation or Sasha's verbal interpretation. And I learned this the hard way, of course, being in a generation who grew up watching YouTube. Seeing a lot of guys like you I look up to. Because even though what you're saying made sense, it didn't come from my truest feelings. I was trying to imitate words. That's all I was doing. I was imitating your words. And me learning that probably is what led me to sitting with you here today, having a conversation as equals, as people who really love each other, and seeing you looking at me is like, you have fucking potential, kid. You're really fucking amazing. If I was imitating you and I just listened to you word for word, I don't think you would have seen that. I don't think so. I think, oh, this guy, probably, join my boot camp or whatever, as a fan or whatever. Thanks. And you probably would have ignored me. But that's the deep work we really need to do, really go through it ourselves and allow ourselves to feel the things that we've been told not to feel. Because it's totally connected with our ability to think. But again, the quote-unquote ego, the fantasizing, the thinking, wants to eliminate as much feelings that are associated with fear and punishment. And don't fall into that trap. Yes, there are things you're afraid of. There are things that you'll feel punished for. But let yourself experience those emotions. And that's
so good, bro. So good. Yeah. You said it. And ironically, even though I was not even aware what I was doing all those years teaching those boot camps, what I've been doing. I've been putting people in fucking awkward situations where their ego thinks they're going to die, making them do crazy ass stupid shit where they literally feel like they're going to die, and I make them do all these things for hours, and guess what? They don't die. And they have the realization, like, even though I thought that would be death, I'm fine. And it frees people. It's for years. Isn't that insane? Yeah. Even before I realized the profoundness of what I was doing, I was recreating basically the process of what you're talking about. Yeah. Rather than imagining, oh shit, what's the worst case scenario? I would have people live the worst case scenario by going up to that most beautiful girl and doing something completely retarded where she's going to tell you to fuck off, where it's just going to be awkward, going on elevators and making farting noises and everybody like just shit where everyone's looking at you like, oh my God, and you literally feel like you're going to die. Yeah. And guess what? Nobody dies. Nobody dies. And people are set free. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And I think just to add what Sasha said too is, what's important about what Sasha does is understanding the meat and potatoes behind it, which is when they go up and talk to somebody or put themselves in a situation where they assume they're going to die, what happens is they reintegrate what they project. So I project this thought that I'm going to die, someone's going to hurt me, someone's going to reject me, right? But what really that is 60 seconds? Okay, what really that is you projecting a part of your emotions and your personality and separating yourself from that emotional experience, from that part of your personality that's willing to let that experience fucking happen. And then when you do, it's not just you're talking to a girl, but you regain a part of your personality and a part of your potential just to fucking feel like a human being. That's pretty much it.
Boom shakalaka. Unbelievable. Holy shit. We could go on forever. Battery's literally 2%. That's why I said that. Yeah, we're turning it off.
Is this even not part of the podcast?
No. Well, no, but it's not. Well, who knows? We'll use it somewhere.